Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a first look at the brand new Community Day Hydro Cannon Primarina in the Open Master League. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Smudgy B, so many thanks for the battle submission. Primarina gets massively improved with the addition of Hydro Cannon. Previously, it was stuck with Hydro Pump, which is much too expensive. It does also get a new move, Sparkling Aria, but that just ends up being a worse move overall than Hydro Cannon. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at Hydro Cannon Primarina in the Master League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a positive lead, Landorus versus Dialga Origin. Dialga choosing to stay in this matchup, an attempted catch onto Dragonite, and that decision is going to be quickly punished as in comes Primarina. Primarina, of course, is going to be a wall to the energy from the Dragonite. Dragonite superpowers to deny farm. They're going to make a last second charge attack. It is only going to be the debuff double resisted Dragon Claw. In comes Dawn Wings, and these neutral situations are where Hydro Cannon is going to help. Not only is Hydro Cannon a cheaper charge move for Primarina, as it's actually going to be able to make 2 here unless the opponent throws their energy, but it hits harder than Disarming Voice does. So overall, it's a really nice upgrade. Unfortunately for the opponent in this first match, they are just in a really unwinnable position. They're stuck with their Dawn Wings going up against a Dusk main, and their Dialga is going to get hit with the Landorus shortly thereafter. Sunsteel Strike connects, devastating damage. We're going to see a switch to the Landorus, and Landorus is able to double up on Sandsear Storms, meaning this game is over. They can shield once, but it's not going to matter. Landorus firing off Sandsear Storm number 2, knocking out Dialga. In comes the Dawn Wings. Opponent realizes there's no longer a win con. They stop tapping, and Smudgy is able to take the win. Great lead in the next match, leading Landorus into the Metagross. Opponent tries for a catch onto Zygarde, and again, these Dragon safe switches are getting punished by Primarina. Primarina is going to be met with a crunch. Opponent fishing for a debuff, and they actually do get the debuff. Primarina farming up, going to try and pick up a knockout with a super effective Disarming Voice. Disarming Voice barely does not KO. Zygarde able to hang on and make it to one final crunch before it does get KO'd. Opponent can send, I was going to say back in that Metagross, but they choose to send out Kyogre instead. Kyogre is going to take damage here from this Disarming Voice. Kyogre shields, we're going to see an aggressive switch into the Dusk main. I honestly like this play quite a bit. Opponent did farm up to a potential Origin Pulse. We see the shield, and it is just going to be the Surf. The switch out by the opponent into the Metagross, but this is not better for them. Dark Pulse will hit for massive damage as Duskmane does so well at shutting down Metagross. Metagross baits with a Meteor Mesh as well. It's all going wrong for the opponent. In comes Kyogre, and yeah, this game is over. There's not really anything the opponent can do to win this. They end up committing the shield, but Landorus has energy, so in comes the Landorus, gonna fire off the Sandsear Storm. I don't think Sandsear will quite knock out, but it does enough damage at this point. The Kyogre barely hanging on with 1 HP. The Surf will not KO, and Landorus gets the KO, one of its hardest counters, as down goes Kyogre. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match as the Landorus Duskmane core is getting core broken to shreds by a Gyarados. Gyarados, honestly, a pretty cool and underrated free-to-play pick. Crunch does massive damage. Opponent is going to send out their Groudon. Groudon going to be met with a Dark Pulse bait. Groudon calls the bait. That did a lot more than I was expecting. I think this might be an underleveled Groudon. I'll have to see. This Dark Pulse will be shielded. It is an underleveled Groudon. Groudon not going to be able to get the Mud Shot down. They're just forced to fire off a Fire Punch to pick up the knockout. Now this could potentially set up a pretty aggressive farm for the Primarina. Instead, choosing to bring in the Landorus and just go for Landorus farm. Honestly, energy on either should do quite nicely. This Groudon will go for the Fire Punch. Landorus is going to get a nice double up and be pretty close to a Stone Edge to threaten the Gyarados if it does re-enter the field of play. Down goes Groudon, out comes the Gyarados. Gyarados going to be met with the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will be able to pick up a knockout here. This is massive damage. They're forced to shield. In comes Primarina, and the opponent switches at the last second into their Dawn Wings. And let's see this Hydro Cannon damage fired off by the Primarina. Hydro Cannon will connect, and that does some pretty nice neutral damage. The Dawnwings, it looks like, thought about top lefting there, choosing to stay in the fight as they full send the Moongeist beam. But after that Moongeist gets shielded, there's just no hope for the opponent. Primarina doesn't even have to shield this, and Smudgy's going for the flex. He says, I know I survived that move. He's letting it go, going to fire off Disarming Voice. Disarming Voice KOs the Gyarados, and that's a win. Great lead in the next match, leading Landorus into the OG Dialga, and this Dialga is not switching out, which means they have something in the back that is not a big fan of a Landorus with a one-turn head start. Dialga committing the shield. We're going to see Dialga go for an Iron Head. This is survivable for the Landorus, but at this point, it seems like they're weak, so you may as well commit to Lando. Lando going to be firing off another Sandsear. We see a second shield from the Dialga, a switch out into Mewtwo, and Mewtwo is going to be answered with Duskmane. Mewtwo makes it to a potential Shadow Ball. Smudgy opting to let it through. The Shadow Ball connects, massive damage, but not enough to KO. Great overfarm from the Duskmane, overfarming as much as possible. Going to fire off the Dark Pulse and pick up the knockout onto the Mewtwo. Back in comes the Dialga. Dialga unable to get the farm down, as we do see the Duskmane make the last second Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse not quite going to be enough to knock out. Dialga can make an Iron Head, choosing to soak that damage on the Primarina. Honestly, I like this play. Primarina still has a decent amount of health, and it survives Iron Head pretty nicely. What is that final Pokemon? It's going to be an Excadrill. And this is a situation that'll play out more so in Premier than Open Masters, but where Hydro Cannon and cheaper water damage is going to be quite nice. As Charms, of course, not going to do a lot to the Excadrill, but a Hydro Cannon will absolutely remove it from the field of play and secure the win. Bit of an awkward lead in the next match, leading the Landorus into Yveltal. This matchup, of course, will get a lot more comfortable for Yveltal in the new season because it will have access to Sucker Punch, a fast move that is getting tremendously buffed. So Yveltal's going to have a lot more fast move pressure in the new season. But currently, it's getting baited, and now it's getting outpaced due to shielding the Sandsear Storm. Stone Edge is going to land, and that is so much damage. Honestly, it's pretty tempting to go for the Shadow Claw down, but you'll take decent damage on the Duskmane to do so I don't mind just farming down with the Primarina. Primarina, up energy and up a shield. There's no way they're this weak to Primarina. They're bringing in a Giratina Origin. Giratina is going to be able to pressure a shield from the Primarina with a Shadow Ball in the back. Is Dialga, and now we know why they had to bring in the Giratina. They just had nothing for two-shield Primarina. Primarina is going to land the Disarming Voice, and now, once that's landed, you can just bring in the Duskmane to fully farm down, as Duskmane's energy is going to be very threatening into that Giratina. Down goes Dialga, in comes Giratina, but Giratina just gonna fall to a deluge of Dark Pulses. Dark Pulse number 1 is gonna get the shield, but Dark Pulse number 2 follows shortly thereafter. Down goes Giratina, and this team continues to pick up wins. Moving to the next match, Landorus, another Yveltal. Okay, this is pretty okay. More than happy to play this out considering there is the Duskmane in the back. Opponent is going to throw as soon as they get it, giving a free Mud Shot, and that's quite nice for Smudgy. Smudgy this time not opting for the bait, full sending the Stone Edge, hoping the opponent calls it, but they do end up respecting it with a shield. This does complicate the matchup a little bit more for Landorus, because Landorus does not have a pacing advantage here. Dark Pulse will be shielded. Landorus going for another Stone Edge, looking to apply some massive damage. The Stone Edge is double shielded. At this point, do you just end up letting this go and saving shields for Primarina, or do you commit to the lead? He's going to save shields for the Primarina. He's going to send in Prima, as Prima is going to look for a farm down. The switch out by the opponent. They're going to send in the Dawnwings. Dawnwings able to bait out Duskmane. Duskmane can potentially go for a shield and a farm down. The opponent, they do have that Yveltal still, but Yveltal has no shields. It can't protect itself from a Sunsteel Strike. Out comes Yveltal, and it's not going to be here for very long, as out comes the Sunsteel. Down goes Yveltal. In the back is a Groudon. Groudon not going to be able to make it to its charge attack, as the Sunsteel Strike is able to connect, and that just does far too much damage. Groudon on 1 HP, going for a Bad Manners Precipice Blades, but Primarina, with 1 charm, will secure that victory. We move to the next match, leading Landorus into Metagross. Metagross, definitely the forgotten Psychic Steel type. It got pushed out of the meta by Solgaleo, and now even more so by Duskmane. Smudgy did mention that he was starting a bit below 2k elo at the start of these 3 sets, and ended up winning quite a bit, and so he was able to climb back over 2k elo. At this elo range in the Master League, you are going to see oftentimes quite a lot of powered up mons, but sometimes they tend to be a lot more the free to play mons, the easier to get mons, for example, like the Metagross. So we haven't necessarily seen the stuff like Palkia, but seeing Palkia would honestly be quite nice, considering there is a Primarina on the team. Nice catch onto the Duskmane, opponent choosing to send out the Dawn Wings, and if you're switching Dawn Wings into a Duskmane, something has gone wrong. You're very weak to it in the back. Opponent is going to commit the shield. And now we're just going to see Smudgy do what Primarina does best, which is Primarina with a shield being able to put out some work. Opponent full sent a Moongeist. A Dark Pulse would have been able to KO there. But either way, they're only going to be able to make one move versus the Primarina. Primarina can just shield once, farm down, and be in a pretty nice spot, as that will be the Moongeist Beam. In the back is going to be a Lugia, and this is another situation where Hydro Cannon will be preferred, as Hydro Cannon does have better damage per energy. It's still not going to do a lot to something like Lugia, but the goal is just adding up with damage over time. There was a little bit of lag there, so unsure quite where Lugia's energy is at. Lugia withstands the 2 Hydro Cannons and going to be able to pick up a knockout with a potential Aero Blast, but the good news is Landorus. Oh, this is honestly a little bit of disrespect here. To be fair, Sandsear Storm will KO. And I know that was the correct move to throw, but knocking out a Lugia with a ground move always does feel like a little bit of bad manners. Pretty decent lead for Landorus in the next match, as it leads into Ho-Oh. Especially if this bait gets shielded, then things are looking quite good. The bait is shielded. Looks like Landorus is unfortunately lagging quite a bit there. Ended up going for the Sandsear Storm, but threw it one early due to the lag, and the opponent ends up calling it. That's really unfortunate. I think the opponent actually went over 100 energy there. They're going to go for the Brave Bird. Yeah, it looks like, unfortunately, in this battle, Smudgy is lagging quite a bit. He is going to commit the shield as Ho-Oh goes for another Brave Bird. We see a switch out into Dialga. Opponent may think they caught the Stone Edge here. No, they actually end up shielding, so they were aware of the fact that they didn't end up catching. Smudgy gonna bank a ton of energy for later and send out the Duskmane. Duskmane very good at absorbing Roar of Time. There is the Roar of Time from that Dialga, and now he can look to pick up a knockout with a Sunsteel Strike. Sunsteel Strike may be resisted, but it will do more overall damage. Sunsteel is able to connect, and down goes Dialga. Opponent is going to bring back in the Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh inflicting massive damage onto the Duskmane. Duskmane leaves a parting gift of a Dark Pulse that will not be enough to knock out. There is a move available on the Landorus, and Landorus does win charge attack priority here. Going to send in the Landorus. Click on the Sandsear Storm because it's single resisted, but it will be enough to knock out. In the back is a Melmetal, and out comes Primarina. Melmetal, a Pokemon typically only seen at these lower elo brackets. Primarina will be able to tank a Rock Slide here, but it's a Thunderbolt from the opponent, and the spicy moveset, I think, just won them this game. Without Thunderbolts, things were looking pretty good for Primarina, but Melmetal farms all the way down. Landorus doesn't have a move, and this game actually ends in a loss. Melmetal with a spicy moveset ending up leading to a heartbreaking defeat. Hopping into the final match, great lead Landorus into Metagross, opponent safe switching into the Dawn Wings, and that's going to be answered with the Duskmane. I'm a bit surprised that Dawn Wings didn't throw right away, because then they could have potentially threatened the first shield of the match. Whereas now Dusk is going to look to double shield and just farm all the way down. Because up energy, Dawn Wings is able to make 2 moves in this matchup. So Dusk is able to get a nice farm down and exit with energy. Opponent is going to be able to send back in the Metagross if they wish, but Metagross does not have a good matchup here. Instead, they're going to bring out Rayquaza. Very nice charge move timing here, even despite a little bit of stutter. Going to fire off the Sunsteel Strike, and then will be shielded up by the opponent. Rayquaza does not want to risk Duskmane making another move. They're just going to go for the Breaking Swipe. But in comes Primarina, and this game is just over. Opponent sends out the Metagross, and Metagross is about to get absolutely cooked by Sandsear Storms. Sandsear Storm is going to connect massive damage to that Metagross. Even if Metagross could pick up a knockout here, This is just prime farm range for the Primarina. The opponent goes for the bad manners there. They go for the Earthquake, saying, I do not want to play anymore. And Landorus will go for the Stone Edge, knocking out Rayquaza and taking the win. All in all, Hydro Cannon proves to be a massive buff for Primarina, and if you're looking to play in the Master League, definitely play this community day. Unfortunately, Sparkling Aria does nothing for it, as Sparkling Aria is just a move that's more expensive and does less damage than Hydro Cannon, so you don't need Sparkling Aria. You can just run it with Charm, Disarming Voice, and Hydro Cannon, or for Master Premier, you could potentially take a look at a Waterfall set with Waterfall, Hydro Cannon, and Disarming Voice, but either way, not really a use for Sparkling Aria. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.